Fortnite live events have always been the game's standout feature. Throughout the eras, we've faced countless threats. We've thrown hands with gods, kaijus, and supervillains. But among all this chaos, there is one force that stands in a league of its own. A force that doesn't just want to conquer the island, it seeks the total annihilation of existence itself. We're talking about the threat we are facing in the Chapter 7 event. The name that strikes fear into every looper, the Last Reality. From their rise long before the dawn of time, to their fatal role in the destiny of the Seven. We're breaking down the hierarchy, the tragedy of the Cube King, and the true nature of the Nothing. But before we open this portal into the unknown, I have a huge favor to ask. Smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. It's literal fuel for my channel. So, what is the Last Reality? Most players only learned about them in Season 17, when the saucers arrived over the island. But in reality, this organization existed billions of years before the first resident ever stepped foot on the Battle Royale map. The Last Reality isn't just an alien army. It's a conglomerate, an empire consisting of multiple enslaved races and dimensions. Their name speaks for itself. They want to be the Last Reality. Their goal is absolute entropy. To destroy all other worlds, all other universes, consume the 0 point, and leave nothing but themselves. Think of them as cosmic locusts that strip worlds down to the bedrock. According to the data we have, this empire is split into several factions, but the core of their power has always been cube energy, dark matter capable of warping space and time. Let's rewind the clock way back, long before Chapter 1. In those times, the Last Reality was ruled by someone we would later know as the Cube King. This is a tragic figure. Initially, he was a ruler who likely believed in the greatness of his civilization. But over time, he started to see the horrifying truth. His people, his empire, had turned into monsters. The thirst for power and conquest overshadowed everything else. Under his command, entire worlds were being wiped out, and the weight of these destructions began to crush him. The Cube King realized he was leading a force that brought nothing but death. His moral compass couldn't take it anymore. This led to a fracture. He didn't just abdicate the throne, he fled. He abandoned his own reality, hoping to atone for the sins of the past. But, as we know, you can't run from your past. Eventually, he was captured by the Imagined Order, who held him prisoner, trying to siphon his knowledge and power. It wasn't until years later that he was saved by the Foundation and other members of the Seven, joining their ranks under the name The Origin. Yeah, the Seven's grim tactician is actually the former supreme ruler of the universe's biggest threat. Irony at its finest, right? After the king's escape, the throne didn't stay empty. His spot was taken by the Cube Queen. And if the king had doubts and a conscience, the queen is the pure embodiment of evil and ambition. Under her reign, the Last Reality became even more aggressive. She didn't just conquer worlds, she terraformed them to suit her needs, turning them into lifeless wastelands inhabited by cube monsters. It was the Queen who turned her armada's gaze toward the 0 point, the heart of the entire multiverse located on our island. But getting to it wasn't easy, since the island was protected, and the Imagined Order had thoroughly hidden its coordinates. We saw the first physical manifestation of this threat at the end of Chapter 1, even though we had no idea what we were dealing with back then. Remember the rift in the sky from Season 4? When the Visitor launched the rocket, he created a crack in the fabric of reality. For us, it was a show. For the Last Reality, it was a beacon. Through that crack, the first agent arrived, a cube the community lovingly dubbed Kevin. But let's be real, Kevin wasn't a friend. He was a sentient biological supercomputer, a scout, and a terraformer all rolled into one. His mission was simple: scan the terrain, locate the energy source, and prep the landing zone for an invasion. Kevin printed runes, siphoning energy from the ground. He tried to open a portal to summon his masters. Those monsters we saw during Fortnitemares weren't just zombies. They were the infantry of the Last Reality, an attempt to assimilate the island's population. But that time, Kevin didn't have enough juice. The island fought back. The cube gave everything it had and disintegrated, leaving behind only shards and an altered ecosystem. It seemed like the threat was gone. But that was just the opening gambit. We're gonna skip over the futuristic seasons where the IO tried to harness cube energy and jump straight to Season X. Here is where the lore gets deep. While we were distracted by the scientists' time loops, something way scarier was happening in the shadows. In the secret encrypted tapes that appeared during the black hole collapse, the scientist left a message. He spoke of inevitability. He said that they are watching. But most importantly, he hinted at an entity standing perhaps even higher than the Queen. An entity named the Nothing. This isn't just a leader. This is likely the very embodiment of the void that the last reality worships. We didn't think much of it back then, but the seeds of the Chapter 3 catastrophe were planted right there, in the finale of Chapter 1. The black hole that swallowed the island momentarily made us visible on every radar in the multiverse. The signal was sent. Fast forward to Chapter 2, Season 17. The scouting phase was over. The war had begun. That signal, accidentally sent by Raz using a cube artifact, reached the Queen's fleet. The mothership arrived, a gigantic base capable of casting a shadow over entire continents. This time, they didn't send magic cubes. They sent a technological army, chimeras, and trespassers. This shows just how diverse the last reality is. They wield both rune magic and top-tier tech. The goal remained the same, the 0 point. They abducted locations, scanned the memories of islanders, and infiltrated the IO. Although the mothership was eventually shot down thanks to Dr. Sloan's sabotage, that wasn't a victory. Crashing the ship didn't destroy the army. On the contrary, it unleashed their true power. The ship was just a shipping container. The cargo was thousands of cubes. Season 18 revealed the true hierarchy of the cubes. We saw that Kevin wasn't alone. There were hundreds of them. And among them was a general, the Golden Cube. The Golden Cube wasn't just a battery, it was a commander, a direct link to the Queen. It coordinated the movements of all the other cubes, making them move in unison. They didn't attack chaotically, they built. They created the convergence in the center of the island, a giant portal city. And that's when the Cube Queen herself stepped onto the stage. Her appearance confirmed all our fears. The cubes aren't an independent race, they are weapons in her hands. She tried to finish what the first cube started, opening the gates for the full might of the last reality to destroy this reality once and for all. Her plan was nearly perfect. She used the island's own energy against it. And only a crazy, desperate plan by the Seven to completely flip the tectonic plate of the island was able to stop her. The ocean washed away her army, and the Queen herself was presumably destroyed by the water, or she retreated because her physical shell was compromised. But defeating a general doesn't mean winning the war. After the island flipped, there was a lull. The Origin joined the Seven, helping them build defenses. But the last reality has weapons in its arsenal far scarier than cubes or lasers. In Chapter 3, we faced Chrome. Chrome isn't just liquid metal. It's a biological nanoweapon controlled by a hive mind. It consumes everything, organic and inorganic, making it part of itself. And controlling this Chrome was the Herald. But the Herald is just a prophet. She serves that very same, the Nothing we were warned about years ago. In the Bytes quests, we heard the voice of the Nothing for the first time. It's a cold, calculating voice that doesn't scream about conquest, but speaks of an inevitable end. The Nothing granted the power of Chrome not just to capture the island, but to literally erase its structure. The tragedy of this phase of the war is that the last reality basically won. The Chrome consumed everything. It consumed the Seven, our main protectors. Even the Origin himself. All of them fell victim to the very force the Origin had been running from for millennia. the island was destroyed, scattered into atoms. It was only thanks to the paradigm and zero fusion that we managed to piece together a new world from the shards of different realities.
I've done everything I can. This is your fight now.
But the price was horrifying, and the story of the island's protectors seemed to come to an end. The last reality has gone quiet. We see remnants of their influence, like the ominous sphere over the island, but don't be fooled. Forces and factions like this don't just disappear. The Cube Queen is likely alive in her own dimension. The Voyager hasn't gone anywhere. It is eternal. What we see in the sky is just the beginning. But the beginning of what? We also have to remember that if you had a keen eye during the final 0-hour event, you would have seen a strange message sent to us. The message read, "Training complete phase completed. Protocol error. The Dark Presence." This message is clearly from the Dark Voyager, and he surely watched how we defeated the Dark Presence during 0 hour. I imagine that for him, and for the last reality, seeing us fight was a form of training. They tested us, likely preparing for a superior threat. And what is this new threat going to be? To understand why that power is such a big deal, we gotta talk about the last reality again, because this squad uses their cubes as foot soldiers with the plan of invading different realities, probably intending to hoard the entire universe for themselves. Back in Chapter 2, Season 8, we found out the Cube Queen was the leader of all of them, basically because she controlled the Golden Cube. In fact, during her mission to invade our island, she summoned her army, which is where we first saw this specific type of ship that is now hovering right above the Golden Coast Island. And actually, the one sitting inside it is the Voyager. With the arrival of this ship on the island, we also get the TV interference shown in the cinematic trailer, where we can read a message that the last reality probably meant to send to their own forces. In it, they say that their training and learning phase is complete, and that they've spent 8 years and 9 weeks in base reality, which is basically Battle Royale mode, since that's how long it has existed. According to them, this adds up to 106 billion years, because they're counting the fact that every 20-minute Battle Royale loop can have up to 1 million active matches at once. That's why the total amount of time is literally around 7 times longer than the age of the universe itself. However, during this process, we spotted 2 errors that came up for them. The first was the appearance of the Dark Presence, a villain that emerged from the spirit realm, something that, for now, exists only in the reality of 783. And by the way, he was already defeated in the final event, with Jones bringing in the entire army of collabs. With that victory, they also recovered the fragment of the 0 point, and this sent Hope, Jones, and us to the new island, I assume to recover another part of the 0 point fragment. If you don't know what this 0 point is, let's just say it's like the heart of all the Fortnite islands. And at the end of Chapter 4, well, it exploded, and its fragments were scattered across different realities. This was the same event where Fortnite stopped being just a game and officially became a metaverse. With that cleared up, let's move on to the second error in the message, the anomalies. They had been contained, but with the Voyager's arrival on the island, they've been reactivated. That's exactly why, in every match, we get these random phases where anything can happen in the game. Finally, the TV also shows that Phase 2 has already started, and that a program encoded in human language has been executed. This is probably referring to sending the Voyager to the island. Still, we're left wondering what exactly he's going to do. The thing is, when we talk to Hope about it, she has no idea what this ship is planning to do next. In fact, she also confirms that Daigo and Kendo stayed behind to protect Oninoshima after we helped them save it. This reinforces the idea that when it saved us, the fragment took only us and not the whole island. So I understand that this isn't an error. It's meant to let us help recover the remaining missing pieces. And if you're wondering where that first fragment is now, it's in our possession and is currently being investigated in one of the new zones on the map. With all this, we'd already have plenty to theorize about, but luckily, Fortnite officially showed us this notebook with a reference to the movie Kill Bill just before Chapter 7 started. In it, we see the Imagined crossed out and the Foundation being written in. These two are characters who are part of the team known as the Seven. This group was formed to defeat an organization called the Imagined Order, which is led by Gino, a character who hasn't even appeared in the game yet. We've only seen him in the comics. And by the way, the comics are also where the Imagined dies, which is why she is crossed out in the notebook. This organization also had the 0 point under its control and used it to trap all the loopers on the island, forcing them to repeat a loop every 20 minutes and lose their memories after finishing it, something the Seven didn't like. That's why a war started between the two sides, which ended with the Seven's victory in Chapter 3, Season 2. It was in the very next season that the Herald invaded the island in the name of the Last Reality. She had the power to turn people into chrome, and with that, she managed to defeat almost everyone from the Seven. However, a year later, Jones and Sloan joined forces and went back to the past to prevent all the events I just listed. This would explain why the Seven are alive now. When they generated this multiverse, they were also thrown to different locations in the various realities, just like the fragments. For the moment, the only member of this group we know is on this Golden Coast island is the Order, since she left this audio log near the drop pod she arrived in. In these logs, she makes two things very clear. First, we aren't the only ones chasing the fragments. This could mean that in this chapter, we'll also have another rival, like what happened last chapter with the Dark Presence. Second, the Seven are not exactly going through their best moment anymore. In other logs, she mentions the Scientist, another one of her teammates who is known for being the smartest in the group, and even she doesn't know his whereabouts. This supports the theory that each member ended up in a different place and we don't know where. In fact, this makes sense when talking about the original visitor, who, after the 0 point explosion, could have traveled to the OG reality, which is the same as hers, but taking place in 2025. Anyway, the Order will leave a fourth audio log in the coming weeks, where she'll try to send a message to call the rest of the team to come help her face the Dark Voyager. And actually, going back to him, we have to remember the list of names, where we also saw that the second note was the bus driver, something he has already achieved. Although, during the last week, we did quest to rebuild the bus. As for the rest of the names, I personally have no idea what they could mean. For the past few years, so many organizations have popped up in Fortnite. You wouldn't have enough hands to count them all. Some of them played a huge role in the game's history, while others are still driving the storyline forward. So, it's time to figure out what happened to some of the most powerful groups on the island, where the Imagined Order disappeared to, where the Seven are now, and why the Last Reality will definitely make their presence known again. I think a lot of rookies who first logged into Fortnite in Chapter 7 or 6 haven't even heard of the Imagined Order, but these guys were terrorizing loopers for several years. The Order actually became the very first organization we got to know. Back then, we didn't know about all the members of the Seven, and the mysterious corporation that ruled the entire island was called the Government. As we later found out, the secret government is the Imagined Order, or to be more precise, an organization controlled by the order that was needed, so the big shots wouldn't get their hands dirty.